following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. It is Cannabis Chat in the Zone. I'm Ralph Tycho. A lot of my friends call me the Zigzag Man. It's just comes naturally. I like to talk to folks in the community, and I have the privilege of talking to a man whose growing prowess precedes him. Erik Smolin, how are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Well, a few things about you appeal to me. Most of all is your relationship with your son. You have a good life going. Tell me about that.
Oh, man, thank you. That's pretty cool of you to say. So I actually have 3 kids. I have 3 sons. But
one's a hockey player.
Yeah, so I've got this 16-year-old hockey player who's been into hockey since, I think he was about 2.5. He's been into it ever since then. My wife took us to a game, and, he just couldn't take his eyes off the ice, and he has loved the sport ever since.
Wow. So he plays on traveling teams, am I correct? Do you travel with him?
Yeah. So he started playing, I think, when he was about 4, and he started skating when he was about 2.5. And I've never ice skated at all. I don't even know how to ice skate. I watched some hockey growing up, a little bit, but once he got into it, I got into it as well, just so I could enjoy him and enjoy, just be around him, and the sport appealed to me as well. And, so he's played since he was about 4, and then when he was about 10, I think he started playing in the traveling leagues, and then he now is playing what's known as tier hockey, which is I guess it's the highest level at his age bracket at 16, so there's, I think, 3 or 4 other teams in California at that level, so it's getting pretty serious for him. Good.
Something for you to bond you as a parent.
Yeah. We had season tickets for a little while, and then I was lucky enough to write for a sports blog for a season, and I got to cover the Sharks. And I got to meet, go to the locker room and meet the players, and then I brought him to one of the practice skates. It was right after the Sharks made the playoffs, and I think one of the players actually told the press manager for the Sharks that one of the press was there, and it caused a big old stink that was getting autographs for my son, and so they asked me not to come back. So the NHL kind of fired me, but oh well, it was fun.
Well, you take your chance. You still have the autographs and the memories.
Yeah, it was well worth it. It was pretty calculated. I waited till the end of the season, and I was just like, yeah, let's do this. We had a plan. We were almost I almost was gonna smuggle them into the locker room one day. I had kind of a goofy plan, but we never pulled that off.
It comes under one of my categories of how to live life, and I take this from the Christian Brothers. It's much easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, I think that's right.
All right. Let's talk about you a little bit, get to know you. Then we'll talk some serious cannabis. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up here in the Bay Area. I was born in Fremont, and then, I moved to Oakland and Berkeley, and then eventually moved here to Alameda. Okay.
What kind of music did you listen to when you were a kid?
Oh, man, I love this question. Music's super important to me. When I was, my parents grew up here in the Bay Area as well. My dad was a big fan of the Bay Area, psychedelic scene and the Grateful Dead and, the Jefferson Airplane. So I grew up on a lot of cool San Francisco rock, and your typical 60s rock, and I got really into the 70s rock. And then I was kind of a teenager when like the Bay Area thrash metal scene was kind of happening, bands like Metallica and Exodus, and so I was really into that stuff when that happened. And then Primus kind of hit the scene, and there was like this funk revival in the Bay Area that I loved. And then when I was in college, I was lucky enough to be the arts and entertainment editor of our college newspaper. I went to Cal State East Bay, and then I got into writing about music through that. And so I've been able to, I wrote about music since the mid-'90s. I've got to interview lots of bands, and I had a radio show and a TV show back in the day, back in the 90s.
All right. 90s were good times, and I had some history at Cal State East Bay. My son's late mother taught accounting, was an accounting professor, and got me a gig doing a sports talk show at Cal State Hayward. It was called Sports from the Top of the Hill. And got to interview a whole bunch of baseball folks from my childhood. It was really kind of cool. But you're the issue of the day. I hear you like pups too.
Oh yeah, we just picked up a German Shepherd. You probably just heard her. We had a dog for 10 years, and she passed away on Bicycle Day on 4/19, and we were so heartbroken. And then
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but another one popped up on Facebook. A friend of mine had put a picture up of this dog that was looking for a home, and we just fell in love with her the minute we saw the picture, and now she's barking in my living room.
Wow. German Shepherd, does the dog eat kosher?
No, well, I don't know now. So the last dog died of cancer, so now we're feeding this one real people food. I'm kind of nervous about what to feed her and what she's going to be sniffing around, and so yeah, she's healthy. That was kosher. Right. Definitely healthy.
It took you a while. It took you a minute for that one. Let me ask you, Ed, where did cannabis meet music for you?
Oh wow, I like that question so much because they go so well together. One of my all-time favorite things to do is to just smoke cannabis or take a substance and lay back and listen to music. So I guess boy,
that's a nice club. That's a nice club, isn't it? Nice club we belong to.
Oh, I think it's the greatest. I had headphones when I was a kid, and I could just choose a record. I love vinyl. I still do, and I choose a record and put on my headphones and just, for an hour, I'd just be lost in a whole completely different universe. And I still love to do that now.
Beautiful. Well, in return for my tip of who to listen to when you're most pleasantly zonked, that would be Mose Allison for me.
I'll write that down.
I don't know. You write that down, and in return, I'm going to ask you to give me, because I am a novice legal grower, and I want some growing tips from you.
All right, growing tips. Oh, my goodness. I'm not the best grower.
Nothing specific. Ed Rosenthal wrote the Bible, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that I have basically two questions. One of them is in flowering. They say just cut the time, so it's 12 on, 12 off. Am I correct? Would you do that for flowering, or would you adjust it as the flowering goes on? Would you give it less and less light as the flowering goes on?
Me personally, I would flip it, that day, or figure out that day, and it'd go from, I guess maybe I would kind of graduate down a little bit, and then and then I'd flip it. You know, I grew for about 10 years indoors, and then I don't know, I kind of lost interest. It's not easy growing, man. But
well, I find it easier on some levels than dealing with folks that poach and what have you. So for that reason, my other question is, because we have a tent and obviously space is limited when you grow indoors, and you're only legally allowed 6 plants. Would you take up the tent with all 6 plants, or would you let 2 plants, say, fill the tent?
That's another great question. What's the growing medium that you're using?
Soil.
You're using soil.
And what we do, we get clones from the clubs, and I'm wondering, because 6 is the max, we've used 6, but would we be as well served with fewer plants in the same space?
You know, I think it's probably 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. It's probably, on top of that, you would probably want to consider the type of strain that you're growing, because some are more heavily, bigger producers than others, And I think for me, I always went with more plants than less plants, just in case something died or something had pests or something went wrong. So I like to have more than 2.
That's been my gut. That's been my gut feeling as well. That's interesting.
One of the tips over the years that for me, that worked best was to start from seed and then to bleach the whole entire room after I harvested every single time, and then just start over from a seed again with a completely bleached grow room. I really didn't like to have bugs, and I hated, any of the, I didn't want to spray anything, and I didn't really like the companion bug idea. So I just always would start fresh, and I'd have the best results when I started fresh with seed. But it takes a lot longer.
Beautiful. Hey, Mr. Smolin, you give great interview.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. It was fun for me, and it was informative, and I like your spirit.
I really appreciate you taking a little interest in having me on. I like your spirit as well.
All right, you come back soon. You come back soon and be a regular.
I will.
I hope.
Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. Ed Smolin, Alameda, California. Thank you for listening, everybody. I'm Ralph Tycho. A lot of my friends call me the Zigzag Man. Happy trails.
The proceeding has been a comfortably zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.